Hi, welcome into another Thoughts on Humankind video from the Maddish Moose channel. It's exciting times for Humankind. We got a brand new DLC coming out in just a few days. It's got a lot of exciting stuff. They've released some really cool details about the new cultures. We got 6 new cultures, 5 new wonders coming out. It's going to be pretty exciting. One of these cultures, the Swahili, has accentuated, in my opinion, the biggest problem that humankind currently has, and that is emblematic harbor districts. Okay, we have several of these in the game already, and this is the topic that I want to cover today in the video. What I'll do is I'll take you through a game that we've already played, and I'll show you what I think the problem is. I'll talk about a few things I think that can be done to fix this problem. Some of them are pretty simple, and then at the very end, I'll tell you, like, until it's fixed, I'll show you the meta. Like, I'll walk you through exactly how I think, if you want to play what I think is the most powerful version of humankind right now as you pick cultures moving through, I'll show you that at the very end. But I want to jump into the game. Let's talk a little bit about this. Again, the Swahili, which is one of the new cultures from the African DLC pack that's coming out, also has an emblematic harbor district. And so that's what kind of spurred me to finally create this video. This has been a problem ongoing for quite some time, and it's because of the way emblematic harbor districts function, okay? So, if we look at our harbor districts, we've got quite a few of them. So I'll show you in this game. I picked the whole route. The entire route I picked was dedicated to these particular cultures, okay? So, we start out with the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians have the haven, okay? The key here is the haven acts as a harbor, okay? So it's a harbor replacer, basically. So it also acts as a harbor. When it says, and you'll see the text right there that says replaces harbor, it's the first line under special effects. These specifically are the emblematic districts that I'm discussing in this video that I think cause a massive problem in the balance of humankind right now. Don't get me wrong, I love these districts, and I love these cultures. They are so fun to play as, and I definitely encourage you to do it. But it needs to be balanced out, and again, I'll explain why. So we've got the harbor replacing haven. We go on to the Carthaginians, who have the Kothon, which I've said before in previous videos, I think is one of the most powerful emblematic districts in the game, just because it acts as a farmer's quarter, a market quarter, a maker's quarter, and a harbor, which is crazy to think about. So, we got the Kothon, again, also says replaces harbor, right? So then we go to the next stage. We could go again to the Norsemen with the Naust. So again, special effects replaces harbor. So we've got, so far, right, we've got 3 of them in here already. The haven, which is a money-focused thing, which gives a little bit of food. So money, food, okay, good things. The Carthaginians with the Kothon is a money, food, it is a food and production focused thing, right? But it also counts as a market quarter, which again, it might not give you the yields of the gold that some of these other ones do, but it still counts as a market quarter. Well, when we get to talking about what I think the current meta is, that will become important, okay? Then we get into the Naust, and now is where I think it starts to become ridiculous, because now you've got 3 harbors out, plus, don't forget, you could still place your actual harbor. So now you have the opportunity for 4 harbor districts if you go this route. 4 harbor districts, and that's by the 3rd age. Okay? And again, the Naust gonna boost your food up huge, and usually you're looking for a big food boost at about this time in the game, so the Naust is incredibly powerful in that regard. Plus, it counts as a market quarter. Well, guess what happens after that? You get to play the Dutch. Now, we're not going to talk about this extensively until the end, but the Dutch have the VOC warehouse. You'll notice, not a harbor, because there are no cultures currently in this era, in the industrial era here, that, or not the industrial, in the pre-modern or whatever this is, in that era, there are no currently that have a harbor. So, you could roll the Dutch. You can then roll the Siamese, okay? There's a slight difference with the Siamese. Even though the floating market is placed as a harbor, it's placed in water, you'll notice under special effects, it doesn't actually count as a harbor. So the Siamese and the floating market are not actually a problem currently in the game with the issue that I'm about to talk about. And I promise you I'm getting to the point where, well, you're like, why is this a problem? I see nothing wrong with this. I will show you right here in a second. So again, floating market. The big part here is counts as a market quarter. We can remember that for when I talk about the meta at the very end, okay? And that's as far as actually I've played in this game. We didn't go to the last one, and there's no harbor-based emblematic districts in the last era anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. But what you'll notice is I have in this game, this is a multiplayer game I was playing, I have a substantial fame lead, right? 16.7k, 12.9k is the next best. The people I'm playing against are good Humankind players. They are playing well, and they're doing good as well. But I have the ability to do this. I have a harbor here, I have a haven here, I have a Naust here, and I have a Kothon here. And then I've got the floating market out here. I didn't quite get it exactly the way I probably wanted it to be. But again, if we stick a market quarter out here, is going to make this even better, right? So we've got just this gorgeous ability to create really powerful harbor emblematic districts. Again, so what's the big deal? What is the problem here? Here is the problem. And I can't demonstrate it specifically like in pictorial references because I'm not playing one of those civs right now. But if you zoom out, if I zoom out and I go over to the New World where I have territories, right? So here is an unattached territory, okay? It's an unattached territory. And what can you do with unattached territories? Well, you can buy certain things with influence. One of those things is a harbor. So you'll notice in this unattached territory, I have both a Naust and a harbor. I was able to buy both of those with influence. And not only that, really, really cheap amounts of influence. It costs almost nothing in influence to purchase in these two districts into this unattached territory. So the problem becomes is while I'm playing the Phoenicians, I'm not attaching. And again, I'm attaching as few as possible or using inland only attachments, right? So if we go back to my starting location, here's my capital, right? We started actually in the middle of everything. I wasn't even in a good position to play these types of cultures, right? So what I did is I only attached at first right in this area, right? Just in the middle. I claimed all the other territories, and then what did I do? I put a free haven in because I was playing the Phoenicians. I mean, free, right? I paid a minimal amount of influence to put it in. Then I didn't connect them. I moved up. I put then immediately on moving up, right? My very first turn of moving up, I picked the Carthaginians. I put Kothons down in every coastal territory because it costs very little influence to do so. And I can put them anywhere, right? You could put harbors anywhere, okay? So then I don't attach still. I continue to leave my attachments as centralized as possible and non-coastal. Then I go ahead and move up again and pick the Norsemen, and I have Nausts. And now I'm also putting the Nausts in for free, right? And so all of a sudden, you've got just crazy territories. Okay, so now I start to attach them, right? I've built all of those. I start to attach. Now when I move up and I play the Dutch, I start buying in all the harbors. So now I'm looking at it. I'm going, okay, so now I want just a normal harbor, right, to put in. And so that's what you start doing is you start dropping in your actual just normal harbors as well for just the influence cost, which again is incredibly cheap. So while I'm doing that, everyone else in the game is having to pick their emblematic district and hard build it in using influence or gold, using production or gold, which is incredibly expensive, takes up multiple turns, right? A ton of turns, typically, right? Like 8 turns, 10 turns, depending on your production, to put in one of these emblematic districts. Mine go down in every territory that's unattached. First turn I move up, and I get all of the perks and benefits of that, right? That's not quite balanced, right? And honestly, what it's done for me and for several people I know who play the game is, when you're playing, if you don't pick the harbor-based cultures, it feels like you're just putting yourself at a severe disadvantage. And so that's why I think it needs to be balanced, because when I move up, I want to have multiple options that all feel like they could be viable depending on the given situation I find myself in. Right now, feels like the harbor cultures are much, much, much more powerful than everything else, because I can purchase those in with influence, because I can place them in an unattached territory anywhere I want in an optimal location on the coast. It allows you to do what I'm about to show you, which is this right here. Once you get to the Dutch and you have access to the VOC warehouse, which gets plus 20 money for every harbor district around it, you get the ability to create this VOC warehouse, which is an 81 gold VOC warehouse. So, once I've purchased in the harbor, the haven, the Naust, and the Kothon, remember, all basically for free because I'm putting it in an unattached territory, and I'm using influence to do it. And again, it's a cheap amount of influence. I've got 4 harbors surrounding a VOC warehouse, which is now, as soon as it gets finished, going to put out 81 gold per turn. And you can set this up in any territory that has the right little jut to put your VOC warehouse on. So now you're making just gold upon gold, because not only are your harbors all making you gold, but now your VOC warehouses are going to be cranking out gold. Then you're going to tack on your floating markets to this as well. Start adding your floating markets into your whole kind of market system of harbors and market quarters that you're adding in over here, right? Now it's just getting completely ridiculous. And I haven't even finished this one off, right? In fact, I got so far ahead in this game, I just started putting wonders down for the fun of it. Look, we got Machu Picchu overlooking the Eiffel Tower, overlooking the Statue of Liberty. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in this particular city? It's so beautiful. It's got everything you could possibly need. Plus, come to your VOC warehouse, buy all your goods. You could get out in the water, do all the stuff. Anyway, I sincerely think that this is the meta right now, right here. Find a spot, put your harbor, your haven, your Naust, and your Kothon in a little nook right here. Get your VOC warehouse down, crank the gold. I'm making 25.3k. And again, I don't know, what turn is this? Turn 155? We're on just regular speed. So the fact that you could buy that in with influence is definitely problematic. So here's my fix, right? Here's the meta. And again, if you haven't played this way, I suspect and I hope that at some point they're going to patch this out and fix it. And I'll go over kind of the 3 options I think they have to do that here in a second. But until they do, take a stab at this. It's super fun. It definitely it makes the game completely ridiculous for you. And once the Swahili come out, you can flip the Norsemen for the Swahili if that's beneficial for you, right? I think it's good that they're not in opposite eras, because if you added yet another emblematic harbor district to this, it would get completely out of hand. So you have to pick between the Norsemen and the Swahili, at least, when you're picking your harbor to put down. But this is what's going to get you the crazy yields. So how do we fix this particular problem? Personally, what I think needs to happen is there are 3 options. Number 1, you could just make it much, much more expensive to put in harbor districts using influence, okay? So that would be a pretty simple thing. Right now, it's just too cheap. It like, you just do it. It's like automatic. Like, why would you not just spend a minimal amount of influence to put in these harbor districts? So the first thing they could do, that would be a quick fix, that I don't think is actually the best one, is just increase the cost of putting in harbor districts as emblematic units. The second thing, which I think is actually the best thing that they could do, is make all emblematic districts buildable using influence. Hear me out. Emblematic districts are supposed to be representative of the culture, and so I feel like it makes sense for the amount of influence that you have with that culture to be able to purchase or build that particular emblematic district. I think it fits, and I think it would make influence important throughout the entire course of the game. Currently, in Humankind, influence is critically important. Early game, mid-game, it's still important, and late game, it's completely meaningless. There's nothing to do with influence. You're making so much of it because you prioritize it at the beginning that now you have way too much, and it doesn't do much for you in the end. Yeah, you could fix some civics and different things, right? But you typically have just an overabundance of influence. So make emblematic districts, all of them, purchasable by influence. I think that's the best fix for this particular problem. The third option, which is just like another, like, look, there's lots of ways to fix this. The third option is just don't make harbors purchasable by emblematic, don't make any harbors purchasable by influence. Like just any of them. Just don't make harbors purchasable by influence. That way, everything is equal across the board and you don't have to mess with it, right? So those are the three options I think they have to fix it. I haven't seen the patch notes for the new DLC yet. I don't know if it's going to be fixed. I don't think it is. I haven't seen it discussed anywhere. But I do think that needs to be addressed because I do think that is the biggest kind of game-breaking thing right now in the game is the fact that these harbor cultures are just way, way too powerful, specifically because I can purchase those in with influence. Also, the brown water. Yikes. Can we please get rid of the brown water? I don't know why this was brought in. It just makes it ugly. I don't understand. Please get rid of the brown water. All right. Thank you for tuning into the video. If you like the content, please feel free to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I try to cover a lot of Humankind as well as Civ 6 content on the channel, but we do other things as well. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you for the next video.